Welcome back, everybody. We're doing another Filmstruck Film Club. I'm glad you're here. Maybe it's your first one. I don't know. I don't know if you've been here before, but I know Groot and I have been here before. I'm Carson Higgins, and we do this like pretty much every week. We watch a movie and we talk about it. And if you watch it and you want to talk about it with us, then chime in, man. All you got to do is follow Filmstruck Film Club, and you can do it on Instagram, on YouTube, on Facebook. We're kind of everywhere. Kind of a big deal. But yeah, it is April 1st when we're doing this, but none of this is a joke. This is all real. No fools allowed. Except for me. I'm the only fool allowed. But we finished up our month of March, which was Women's History Month. So we were watching films directed by women. And the film that we watched this week, was honestly such a treat to watch. And it was brought to us via the Criterion channel. If you don't have the Criterion channel, that's okay, but a lot of the films we watch here are going to be streaming there, so it's a worthwhile investment to have. But for the month of March, they did add a thing that was called Pre-Code Paramount. If you're not familiar with the Hays Code, it was implemented in the 1930s, where they were basically censoring films and what you could and couldn't say and do in a film. So the notion of pre-code, as I'm sure you can figure out without me mansplaining it to you, is just films that didn't have to adhere to any kind of bullshit code because it didn't exist yet. And I haven't gotten to watch many of the other films in that wonderful collection that they put up, but I did get to watch this one, and I absolutely loved it. And it is brought to us by none other than Dorothy Arzner, who we will talk about a little bit more in a moment. But this is her film, Merrily We Go to Hell. The title alone was something that caught my attention. And then the description, I was like, well, that just seems like a blast. We got to check this out. It had like similar tonal narrative things, I thought, to like A Star is Born. We do deal with an alcoholic writer he's charming and wonderful, played by, let me see here, Frederick March, someone who I guess is a movie star, but I have not seen him in a whole lot. It's just because I don't have a time machine, and I only have so much time, so I haven't seen all the old movies ever made, but we're getting there. That's what this club is for. But Frederick March plays Jerry, the alcoholic writer, who, when we first meet him, is quite drunk at a party, and he meets the beautiful Joan, played by Sylvia Sidney. And these two actors, I thought just did a fantastic job. I thought they did such a great job with this. It is a romantic comedy, kind of in the truest sense, but it does have like a little bit of a somber tone. There's a little bit of melancholy through here. We do kind of honestly deal with the fact that Jerry is an alcoholic, and later on in the story, as you know, spoiler alert, they get married. We also start to deal with his like adulterous behavior and how Joan says, "All right, if you wanna have an open marriage, my man, I have a date tonight." And so then all of a sudden, this 1932 comedy has some like pretty racy things that it starts to deal with. Not just for the time. I mean, if this movie came out now, we'd be talking about it. So it is very, very much like ahead of its time in that way. But I would love to explore some of these other pre-code movies to see if it was actually rather commonplace at the time. I know there's a whole film on there about a throuple in like the early 30s, and I'm here for it. I want to see all these movies. But yeah, this film, I picked it because of the director Dorothy Arzner, who is someone I did not know. I don't know if you know who she is, but she was the only female director, yes, singular, in Hollywood from 1927 to 43. Almost 20 years. She was the only woman who had directed a film in Hollywood. She does have like 20 or so titles to her name. She made the careers of people like Katharine Hepburn with a movie called Christopher Strong. She kind of put Lucille Ball on the cinematic map. Hell, she was the first woman in the Directors Guild ever. So Dorothy Arzner is definitely someone I think that we should know better. We should know her name. We should at least be familiar with her work. She has the movie Dance Girl Dance is probably her, maybe I guess her most well-known thing. But as far as I'm concerned, Criterion put out Merrily We Go to Hell, that beautiful new Criterion edition on Blu-ray, and it's up on the channel. So I feel like a lot of us are discovering that film. And even just right at the top of it, cinematically, some beautiful stuff is happening. It starts with this like gorgeous miniature set of I think New York, and the camera has just got this wonderful fluidity to it, and just really kind of fun ways of using the camera that, frankly, I didn't know we were doing a whole lot of that in 1932. Mind you, sound films had only been around for what, 4 years. We're a year early to King Kong being out. So, like, this is an old movie. This movie is 90 years old. But it has really a great sense of humor, I think a great script, and hell, it's even got a cameo, is what I'm going to call it, because his role is so small. But Cary Grant shows up in this movie, and he's so young and charming and handsome, and you're like, yeah, that's a movie star. We're going to see a lot more of that guy real soon. But I really like Jerry's friend Buck has just some of the best lines in the whole movie. He has this like ongoing bit where he's like, you know, the one thing this country needs is more, and then he'll say something silly. But there's like a party that's happening, and someone talks about opening the window, and he says, you know what this country needs is less ventilation and more smoke. And that's just kind of his Groucho W.C. Fields vibe throughout the whole film. They're very bumbling, drunk buddies. Jerry, it starts to be kind of like embarrassing and depressing a little bit how much of a failure he winds up being all the time, because he just can't help but get blackout drunk at all the wrong times. Hell, even at their like engagement announcement party, he's passed out in a car in the driveway, and poor Joan is crying, and it's a beautiful thing, really. I think my main takeaway as far as like the people involved on screen is that Sylvia Sidney is a beautiful, charming, wonderful actor, and I just need to go watch more of her films, because every second of her on screen I was like, you're amazing, you are a fucking wonder to behold. And you know, maybe I'm glowing her to the moon, but I just really thought she was great. And I did read a couple things that like Frederick March was a little over the top maybe as Jerry. Some of his drunken scenes were maybe too much, but I got a kick out of it. I mean, I don't know about you, but when I watch films that are 90 years old, I kind of try as much as I can to not judge it based on the things I've seen that have come out in the 90 years after. You know what I mean? I'm not trying to compare it to some of the best movies of the 70s or something, or even of this year. You got to kind of watch it with a little bit of a different lens. Almost like you're reading literature. I shout out to the scene where they're looking for the baritone for their barbershop quartet that they're just trying to sing in the bar, and the bartender winds up being their baritone, but he's off key and whatnot. I recognized him. I recognized that bartender from a Marx Brothers movie, and so, you know, maybe I'm doing enough of this research and watching these films to where now I'm starting to be able to be like, oh, you're from this other movie. I don't really have a whole lot else to say other than I'm really glad that we got a chance to watch this pre-code Paramount classic. It does have 100% on Rotten Tomatoes after all, so like, you know, other people liked it too. But yeah, Dorothy Arzner is just like clearly someone, she's got a star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame, but maybe we just need to dust it off and tell people who she is a little bit more, because she is a stone cold gangster. She's also, just shout out to the lesbian filmmakers, she's like the OG female director, lesbian director. You gotta look up just pictures of this woman in the 30s. She looks like James Dean 20 years before James Dean. James Dean's like a little baby in Indiana, and she's looking like him on film sets in Hollywood. So Dorothy Arzner, God bless you. She lived a long life, y'all. You don't have to worry. She did retire from directing after a while. She did tragically die in a car accident, but she was like 80 years old or something. So she lived a nice long life. She was living out in Palm Springs with her love. She did just fine. But she's really worth your time if you want to look her up and find out a little bit about her. On the Criterion edition of Merrily We Go to Hell, there is a documentary about her, but it was made just like right after she had died. So it's an interesting watch if you want to just educate yourself a little bit. But yeah, that's it. We're going to have another pick this week, so make sure you're following Filmstruck Film Club. Me and Groot will be there. Groot and I know my grammar. You'll be there. I know you will. And yeah, much love. go discover some Dorothy Arzner films. And any film directed by women, honestly, go check it out. Congrats, Jane Campion, by the way.